funny, as a content creator, I always get confused between these two brands, Bluetti and Blue Yeti. We are not talking about microphones though, we're talking about power stations. This is the new Elite 100 version 2 from Bluetti. There are things about this that are just sensational, and there are things about this that are kind of meh. And depending on your use case, I would recommend this, or maybe you look somewhere else. Okay, this is a portable power station from Bluetti. If you don't know who Bluetti is, they've been around for well over a decade. They're up there with brands like Jackery and things like that. This one here is the Elite 100 V2. It has a constant output of up to 1800 watts, but if you go via the app and you go surge power, you can get up to 3600 watts, which is pretty big for a little power station. I've run power tools, coffee machines, microwaves on this without any problems whatsoever. It comes in at just over 11 kilos, so it is quite portable. There are 9 outputs on this, which when you think about it, that's quite a lot of things that you can charge, 9 at once. You've got Siggy size lighter here, 12 volt socket. Underneath that, you've got 2 5521 sockets there. Now, this is, I'll be honest, this is the first time I've seen those sorts of sockets on a power station like this. Why would you have that? I'm thinking things like LED strips, maybe some charging of cameras, things like that. 5521 sockets are not that common, but I do see them on things like LED strips. Underneath this, you've got a row of, or next to that I should say, you've got a row of USB ports here, 2 USB-C ports and 2 USB-A ports. One of these is sensational. I've never seen it on a power station before. Across from that, you've got your 2 GPOs via the Cinewave inverter, and that's it. That's all of them. The batteries in this are lithium iron phosphate. They say you're going to get 4,000 cycles out of these. Obviously, I haven't tested that. Bluetti does state that it's going to fast charge this unit here 80% in 45 minutes. And I can confirm that is the case through mains power. So plugging this into the wall socket at home, turning it on, I had it at 30% and it was fully charged in about 36 minutes. So I do say that's on the money. There are some good points about this, there are some bad points about this, and it really is going to depend. If you have a use case for one of these, it's going to depend on what that use case is. It's not all beer and Skittles with this thing. It's some points are like really good. Some I kind of go, why did you do that? If you're in a situation where you're going to install a 12 volt system into your car, it's probably worth looking at this. This is going to give you your battery power, a solar controller, outputs, inverter, everything in that one unit. Bluetti does supply or does sell a alternator charger, so you can wire that into your car, bring that through and power one of these, and when you get to camp you can pull this out of your car and take it to camping using your tent and everything else. That's one use case for this. Another use case for this is maybe in your home for blackout power to back up things in your house. And that's where we start having some, well, not issues, but they're certainly not great points. So depending on your case, this might be the unit for you, or you might want to look elsewhere. You can use this as a UPS, as in an uninterrupted power supply, and it will kick in within 10 milliseconds of an outage. In saying that, this does support pass-through power, so you can have this plugged into your wall at home, plug in things like computers, tablets, any medical sort of devices, and plug them in straight into the front here, and you can have your unit powered off this whilst this is being charged from the wall. That's a good point. Another point, number 2 if you like, is this port right here. This is USB-C and it will charge at 140 watts, and I haven't seen that on a power unit like this before. And you may go, Shane, why do I need 140 watts? Well, things like MacBooks, they charge at 140 watts, so you can charge it directly off that USB-C. The 9 points of charging on this, I think, is exceptional, and especially when it's including that 140 watt USB-C. I think that's more than what most people will ever need in a unit that's this size. The other thing is 3600 watts of surge power. So you can do something via the app, and we'll talk about the app in a second. You can turn that on via the app and you can have 3600 watts of startup power. It won't maintain that 3600 watts. In fact, I haven't actually had it as high as 3600 watts. Out of all the things that I've tried with this, I haven't got that high yet. So I've done things like heat guns, power tools, all those things, and they go above, but not to 3600. So I haven't been able to test it right to that point, but all the documentation says that it will go that high. I have no reason to doubt that. As I said, there is an app that you can get for this on Android and on iOS that you can do things like turn on DC power, turn on AC power, and turn both of those off. You can set different charge rates, so as it powers up, you can slowly charge it so it's quieter, or slowly discharge it so it's quieter. You also set your surge power via the app. And that's the only way to do it. As I mentioned before, there is a DC-DC type charger. They call it an alternator charger on the website that you can install into your car and use this as that system. The other thing on this is that the screen is fantastic. Even in bright sun, you can read that screen, no problem at all. I've had others that I've tested in the past, some that I've actually sent back. One of the reasons is I couldn't read the screen in the bloody daylight. So with a thing like a solar charger and you can't read the screen during the day, that's a problem. This one, it's pretty good. These may not be bad points as such, but they're certainly things that I look at and go, oh, I wish it had this, or I wish it was done differently. First is the lack of a light. I've tested a few of these now, and a lot of them have a little light. And you might think, and sometimes I used to think, well, what's the point of having a bloody light? But if you're using this in your home and you're having an outage of power, that light actually does come in handy. So as you're walking around holding this thing, and you say you're holding it in two hands, moving through your house when it's all totally dark, that torch does come in handy, the light that's on the front of these things. It's not a deal breaker as such, but if you are using it in that format or for that role, I think that would be handy. Given that if it's a power outage, one of the first things that you're going to look for is your torch, whether that be on the back of your phone or whatever the situation is. But when you get this to the place that you want to actually use it, having that light, trust me when I say this, it's very handy. The handle, it's not a big deal, it's not a deal breaker, but I just don't like the way that it's being done. It's not a pivot handle, it's stuck there on the back, and as you lift this thing, it canters the whole unit, and I can just see some people knocking their legs on this thing. Like I said, it's not a deal breaker, but it's something to be mindful of. The app. Yes, it's got an app. I deal a lot with phones on my other channel, and things that happen with phones affect things like this. Software updates, security changes on your phone are going to put, at times, the app out of bounds for this sort of thing. So, for example, when I installed the app for this onto my Android, the security on my Android said, "No, you're not doing it. I don't trust it." That's not the fault of the app or the fault of the company. It's just a symbiotic thing between these two. One cannot work without the other, and if one doesn't trust the other, you end up having a problem. So what I would have loved to have seen with this is all the things that you can do via the app. I would much prefer to do that via the front user interface on the machine, on the device. And finally, the lack of cables that you get with this. So when you pull this out of the box, you get a regular power cable to go into your GPO, into your wall socket at home, and you also get a solar charging cable. That's it. You can put this into your car. You think other brands, you run off a Siggy socket and you can trickle charge this unit whilst you're driving all day. You can't do it with this, at least not with what is supplied in the kit. I would much prefer to see that sort of cable at least, because once you leave your house, that's it. Unless you've got solar panels, that's it. There's nothing else that you can charge this with. So I definitely think that's a downside of this unit. I'm sure you can get cables. I'm sure you can get Siggy socket 12 volt cables to charge this with. And that, my friends, is going to lead us to the next point, which is something that I just can't test. One of the biggest selling points of this is that it's going to charge the whole unit in 70 minutes with 1,000 watts of solar. So when they asked me to review this, I said, yep, sure thing. I think that's something that you guys were probably going to be interested in if you're in the market for one of these. So I said, my audience would like solar. We live in Australia. We charge a lot of our stuff with solar. It wasn't in their budget to send me solar, so I couldn't test it. So I can test it via the wall socket, and that's it. So is this unit right for you? Well, it depends on your use case. You may look at other things like jackeries, for example. If the lack of a light and the handle is a problem for you, well, you may want to look at that unit. If it doesn't bother you, and I'm sure many people will not give two hoots about it not having a light, well, this will probably do just fine. But if you need that 3600 surge power through this will do it for you just fine. If you need that USB-C 140 watt charging, this is also for you. All of this has been recorded before the launch of this product, so I'm not 100% on the pricing of it. I'll put the pricing of it in the description down below. That's it for today, guys. I'll see you later.